Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and today we're looking into Minecraft. Now ladies and gentlemen, throughout this year and the last year, we've pretty much come across some of the biggest cyber attacks in history. Okay, we were looking at Colonial Pipeline, all of that good stuff. But what if I told you today, basically the MOAB of exploits finally got unleashed onto the world. So I know I'm a little bit late, but today's video is all about Log4J. Now to understand, billions of devices run Java every day, okay? Your computer probably runs Java, your phone runs Java, the servers you use run Java, pacemakers are probably running Java. At this point, what isn't? Now, at some point, people found out that an exploit existed within the logging system. So basically, by looking into the logging system, the exploit here allowed people to run arbitrary code on systems. Now, logging is the most used function, I would say, of any real program. So here's the log sheet to something that I use called Looking Glass. And the reason log sheets are important is they allow anybody who's basically diagnosing a program to really identify what's happened. For instance, it'll tell me when certain things fail, when certain devices fail to even show up, so I can actually identify what problems there are. Now, in the case, if you can attack a logging system, which is what happened in this case, imagine every server using that tool. Well, they're all using logging systems. If you can attack this right here, you basically hit the one function that everyone needs to be using. And that's where the real problem is. If you use Java, or any server is using Java, and your program relies on a log, well, that can actually be completely attacked. That can be used to run remote code exploits. And that is where the real danger begins. So again, when we jump into Minecraft, it's really just a vessel. Minecraft is one of many programs that uses logging systems like this. And of course, if you ever come across issues like this in any software, update as fast as you can. But sometimes it isn't even that simple. Let's get back to the actual story here. Now, the reason why this is really scary is this exploit has been out in the wild for a pretty long time at this point. And today, I'm actually going to show you how this exploit works via Minecraft, which is just one vessel into the entire world. I figured I'd use Minecraft because it's kind of like the most popular thing regarding this exploit at the moment, but this leads into a bigger situation. So anyways, this video is going to be full of technical stuff. Let's sit down, relax, and jump right into Log4J's vulnerabilities. Now to understand, I've got two virtual machines right here. I've got a Kali virtual machine, and I've got a Windows 10 virtual machine that I've just made. Now, what I've done here is like other virus investigations where I've built an attacker system. In this case, it's the Kali Linux, and the victim system, which is the Windows 10 virtual machine that we have. Now, the Windows 10 virtual machine that we have actually has Minecraft running on it right now. So I installed Minecraft, I got it going. Now you can see the seriousness of this vulnerability because even when you sign on to Minecraft's launcher, you can find out that they literally have it listed, Security Vulnerability in Java Edition. So if you actually read more, this has been patched out on a lot of things. But we're going to use older versions of Java, specifically Java 8, and older versions of Minecraft where this exploit is still actually present. At the moment, luckily, if everything is up to patch, meaning your client, meaning the servers that you use, you should, in theory, be fine, okay? But it is more complex than that. Literally over here, this said, "Hello, everybody. Earlier today, we identified a vulnerability in the form of an exploit within Log4J, a common Java logging library. This exploit affects many services, including Minecraft Java Edition. This vulnerability poses a potential risk of your computer being compromised. And while this exploit has been addressed with all versions of the game client patched, you still need to take the following steps to secure your game and your server." So basically what you need to do is you need to update the client, you need to basically not fuddle around right now with the third-party launchers and the modified clients right now, unless of course they're patched, and then the game server that you're using. So here they literally say if you're on 1.18, you upgrade to 1.18.1 immediately. If you're on 1.17, you add these JVM arguments to the actual startup for the server that you're using, and then various points for other servers. Anything below 1.7 at the moment is not affected. So at this point, I ended up getting Minecraft version number 1.8 to basically run whatever is actually affected, and we built a server on Minecraft. So first things first, we're going to launch this server right over here. And the server has effectively just started. So it's ready to go. And inside Minecraft, I'm going to pick version 1.8.8. Now here, Minecraft is even warning me this is an older game version that doesn't support the latest player safety features. So if I hit play on this and just start going with it, we'll load up the game, we'll have a good time. Here's Minecraft firing up. Let's actually get a good old-fashioned exploit going in. So in the multiplayer, I'm going to direct connect to 127.0.0.1. That's localhost, meaning I'm going to connect to the server that this virtual machine is hosting. Everything is hosted on this Windows VM right now. So when we hit join, we're actually going to connect to the server, log in, and as you can see, I'm connected right into this server. Now, of course, the mouse has some issues, but it is what it is. I can move around a little bit, and it is the server right here. So now let's get into actually running an exploit. So basically what we can do is we can actually run one command. All right, somebody could get your client to run a command to anybody connected into the session and run some code. So let's actually open up the notepad file on this system. So let's get that going. So here's a test environment somebody's made on GitHub by the name of LeonJZA. Now over here they actually have a test environment for you to see how these RCAs basically happen. So we're going to build a test environment, a little Docker container to sort of show you how this plays out. Now what's important in this situation is this: make a curl request with a poisoned user agent. So the poison payload, or more specifically this string, $JNDI LDAP. So we're basically going to be using this string specifically in Minecraft to be launching this payload, which is then going to communicate with an LDAP server using the JNDI lookup feature as part of Log4J, and then it's going to communicate to an HTTP server where it's going to call upon a class file that'll actually launch code, the random code, on Minecraft. Now, this stuff is really easy to do. It's like total script kiddie stuff. Like anybody can sit down and get away with this kind of nonsense. But here I've got MarshalSec, which is the actual payload we're going to be using to actually run some of this code on this. This is what we're going to be using to attack this Windows system. So let's get started with it, right? So here we're actually going to be following this GitHub script down to a T. So basically, you want to have Java 8. All right, which means you have to find a copy of Java 8 flying around, and you have to install it underneath Kali, okay? So I was able to do that. I got it up and running. So you can actually see that my Java version in this case is 1.8, and the only reason I'm going with that specifically is due to the fact that it's exploitable, okay? As far as I've been able to tell, Java and a lot of frameworks have actually just gotten an update because of how bad Log4j is. However, we're going to downgrade and keep everything on this level to show you the exploit. So basically, you're going to follow this GitHub script, you're going to clone it, you're going to follow the instructions right over here, get it basically up and running using Maven to install. If you don't have it, just install it through sudo apt on Kali and just move on with this tutorial. So okay, once it's all built and ready to go, it literally took us 30 seconds to build it, but I mean, computers are all dependent, like, you know, it depends on how fast your system is, but this doesn't take too terribly long to build. Once that's good and ready to go, you'll notice everything is done into that target directory, so right beside source, that's where it built to. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create an LDAP server. Okay, we're going to set up a little Apache server to sort of send things through. And then we're also going to have a payload sort of set up and ready to go. So here, I'm going to show you what a payload looks like. This is the file we're going to be using. We're going to compile and build this using Java 8, basically Java C, and then we're going to be sending that over to this Minecraft file. And we're going to be opening up the Notepad program from just this payload. So here I'm going to open up one more terminal, and I'm going to put it just into like the top right over here because we're going to need another terminal as well too. And again, I'm trying to do the best I can to make it really accessible, but like trying to layman this is not as easy for me as it would be for anybody else, really. So I'm going to set up a couple terminals here and just have them ready to go. But for the first terminal, what we want to do is we want to actually navigate and we want to actually build a payload. So here I've got it in a temporary directory, just a payload set. So we're going to open it up using a text editor real quick, and we're going to open up a Log4J Java. Now, this is floating around on GitHub everywhere, but the general idea you want to see from this is, can we Alt-Tab? This is the actual payload that's floating around. Now, there's plenty of versions of this that exist on GitHub. This is actually from the original CVE researchers who basically brought this out to the world and showed it. Now, this is cleaned up code. They actually implemented a couple of functions to make it more accessible and understandable, but I got rid of some of it. But basically what they have is a public class, a Log4J RCE. All right, you've got the static where they're trying, and here they actually had something that I got rid of, but this is the runtime execute, and I put notepad in there. So what this script is going to do when called upon through this exploit will actually launch notepad on this on this Minecraft victim system that we have. So once we actually have this payload set to go, what we want to do is we want to do Java C, and we just want to do log4j rce.java. So again, it compiles and everything's there. If we do ls, we can actually see that a class file was made right here. So log4jrce.class. Now if we do cat log4jrce class, you'll find out you can't read much of it, but you can see that I have notepad.exe put into it. So we've confirmed that this is a built class file that we're now going to call upon. So let's get servers up and running. So in order to do this, we need an LDAP server, we're going to get an Apache server, and we're going to basically run a piece of code within the text chat for Minecraft that will call upon the LDAP server, and then it'll hit the Apache server and receive a payload. It'll receive that class file we just made. Now, in order to check some connectivity on this, we're actually going to be using netcat, and we're going to actually be checking for some port. So we're going to set up a port for 99999. And also, before we do that, we're actually going to check what our IP address is. So in Linux, we're going to type in IP adder, which what's important over here is we're going to look at the ETH0, which is Ethernet 0. It's going to go with some crypto stuff. Well, what's important is this IP address, 192.168.188.130. So this is the actual IP that this other virtual machine is going to detect. Okay, this is a lab that we've basically made. So we're going to copy that. All right, we're just going to like store it in a text chat somewhere for us, just so we can have it for a frame of reference. All right. Now inside over here, we're going to basically scan for ports. So we're going to use netcat. We're going to just basically listen on like port 999999, for instance. It could be really anything. We'll set it to like 1111 for whatever's sake. So now it's listening in on that specific port. Now, remember that piece of code we looked at earlier? So basically, if I go over here in the text chat and I type in $, all right, $sign, curly brackets, we'll make a little bracket for it right here, JNDI, which is, again, what we're exploiting in this log4j, LDAP for the LDAP server, and we're going to just pass the IP address for this other system. So in this case, we actually have 192.168.188.130, and we're going to do port 11111/A. So if we hit enter, you'll notice that immediately right there, we actually got a request. So we sent a request to this virtual machine system. So we know that the connectivity is there. Let's run Notepad, okay? Let's get that going. Let's bring the real belly of the beast. So that script that I got earlier is from GitHub floating around. You can find a bunch of people who are sharing it, all right? But generally, you want to start the LDAP server. So there's a string that you need to have, Java, CP, target, marshal sec, snapshot, all jar. Basically, you take this whole thing, all right, copy all of it, and you're going to drag that into the terminal, all right? So you're going to go into where your marshal sec is. You're going to paste that selection in, but you're going to change a couple things around because this is not the kind of code you want to run immediately. Because right now, if you read it, okay, you're basically hitting localhost. That's not what we want to do. Okay, so let me actually go to a text editor again, have it right over here, and actually change that code around just a little bit so it's actually more friendly for us. When we so what we need to change here is the IP most importantly. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this. We're going to copy that because this is the actual IP address for the actual Kali system, the attacker system. We're going to stick that in here and replace 127.0.7. So paste that there. And as far as port 888888 is considered, I think we're going to be good here. I think we're fine. We're just going to hit save, and we're actually going to put this command in and get things going. So real quick correction, where we used port 8888 last time, replace it with port 8000 just so we can communicate with our web server real quick. And we're going to change this to log4j rce just again. And once it's all done, hit enter, listen to the port once more. And then once you launch your web server, which we'll just redo again, you'll see that everything is set up and ready to go. So what we're going to do right over here is we're going to type the same command in last time, except towards the end, we're going to replace a few things. So we're going to keep the IP address the same, we're going to be communicating to the port, which in this case is port 1389 for the LDAP server. And then we're going to do slash, and we're going to type in the log4j RCE. Now, it all has to be case sensitive. You don't want to you fuddle around with any of that. It has to be very case sensitive, because if it isn't, it's not going to work. So once I launch this, it should in fact fire up Notepad. And in fact, ladies and gentlemen, we just have Notepad fired up. So here it is. Here it is. Notepad is fired up and ready to go. So what we just did, all right, let's look to the right. Let's go through the whole chain of command. It received an LDAP reference result for log4j RCE, redirecting me to that web server we just made. And then it redirected it to the class file. As soon as that class file was hit, we then launched Notepad underneath here. So you might be like, okay, Muda, what's the big deal? No, the big deal is what you just saw was the most harmless use of this case right now. I just launched Notepad, all right? I could launch Calculator, I could launch Chrome, I could launch basically whatever application sitting on your system. However, the real meat and crux of this is actually using this to gain things like privilege escalation. For the sake of brevity, to really showcase the real meat and potatoes of what you can do, I then basically launched a shell within the system, okay? Using the same exploit, I was able to get an actual PowerShell underneath Windows 10. But imagine for a second, remember the times we looked at things like rats, for instance, right? Where we installed a rat onto an actual computer and we were able to basically exploit it for our content. Okay, we could throw in a bunch of malicious software like that. Hell, remember all the ransomware we looked at? I could have launched that on Windows 10 and potentially put ransomware into the system. And how? Literally through a Minecraft server. Now, again, I'm using Minecraft as sort of a test bed, because at the end of the day, Minecraft is not to blame. It's literally something out of its control. Minecraft is actually updated. This is just me using older versions for the sake of showing how this exploit can work. So the reason why this is super freaky and why people are talking about it all over Twitter and all over the internet is Log4j is a logging tool. It's literally the logging component of Java, okay? And the fact that we have a exploit like this, a arbitrary code exploit, a remote code exploit, is big news, okay? So to understand, it's incredibly easy to get going. You don't need to have any coding knowledge. It's literally following the instructions that are already out there on GitHub. There is no coding required for this. A lot of the code is already out there. Fixing it up isn't that big of a deal. In fact, you don't really even need to fix up code in most cases. You just need to change a couple of words around of whatever you want to execute. Again, taking advantage of it will require a sharper mind. But again, tons of information is out there anyway. Script kiddies can go crazy. The other big problem is that there are a lot of attack points available, okay? A lot of different operations happen within a logging system, and so the way that it can be abused is substantially larger. You just saw me use a Minecraft chat system. There are plenty of other methods to access and manipulate a logging system that you might not even think of. And once those can be tapped into and this exploit can be used, all bets are off. The literal only way to avoid the vulnerability is, again, to patch up everything, okay? And again, like I said earlier in the video, that's easier said than done. The reason you're going to hear about Log4j is, again, software gets abandoned, it gets depreciated, sometimes it just doesn't get updated, and that's the real problem. The way this gets out of control is, who knows what big companies like Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, SpaceX, all these massive mega corporations, Google, Facebook, everyone, or sorry, Meta now, who knows how fast they're going to get updated? In fact, who knows how much of themselves they've already gotten exploited with? Because we've just discovered this. This is a 0 day, and with 0 days, they are used for months, if not years ahead of time. Basically, it takes a security researcher to find this, publish it, and then it gets patched. But for people who are on the malicious side of things, well, they could just have been using this for a long time. In the cybersecurity world, a fucking nuke has went off, okay? And in fact, not just a nuke has gone off. I think the idea of, consider this a weapon, right? Consider this one of the best weapons in the world. Everyone gets access to it. Threat actors, nation states, the average Joe who's sitting in their basement playing around with software. Everyone has access to it. And there are a lot of targets that are frankly out in the open, okay? It's fucking hunting season for anybody under Log4j at the moment. So what are the ways that you can do it? Now, I'm not here to fearmonger or spread FUD or whatever, okay? I'm not here to do that. Really, in these situations, you have to slow down, take a deep breath, and really jump into this in a much more calm mindset. You have to tackle things logically. So first things first, update Log4J. If you're a server owner or you have any software that could be abused via this, well, you update your Java and therefore your Log4J system to something that is version 2.15 and beyond, and hope that everything is patched up. From certain security researchers, you also have to disable things like Log4j lookups, okay? Then you probably want to remove class files that are specifically there for the JNDI lookup feature. Remember that code we looked at earlier? The first part was JNDI. So you want to make sure that if you're not using it in the software that you have, getting rid of the class file may be the smartest option, because without it, it's not as if they can pull onto it. But then again, that said, if you do use JNDI for legitimate reasons, well then, you better make sure you update to version 2.15 because you are currently using a version that is completely exploited. Then you want to make sure, if possible, and this isn't really a fix, but at the firewall level, if you can block requests that have strings like $, curly bracket, JNDI, colon, whatever, if you block them, that could be a very simple mitigation right now. At least it would prevent a lot of the script kiddies from exploiting your system. It wouldn't stop the big threat actors, but the more protection you have, the better, so to speak. Again, I want to reiterate, what you saw here was Minecraft being used as a cool little way to showcase this exploit. And of course, a lot of credit also has to go out to another YouTuber known as John Hammond. He actually made the video initially regarding CVE 2021-4428 or Log4j, and he's a pretty good guy, especially if you're into things like virus investigations, solid creator. And he was initially the first guy that I at least saw, and I'm going to credit with, who basically showcased this exploit, specifically also with Minecraft. He opened up Calculator instead on his end. So, good man. He was later killed by a zombie, so feels bad, I guess. I also want to give credit to Alex Cheveriad, who I also watched a video from just while editing, who actually did talk about Log4j as well, and his experience. Again, another solid creator. If you're into virus stuff, these are the kind of guys that I can at least recommend right off the bat. That said, let's get back to the video. The point you have to understand is, this is a big nuclear bomb that is dropped into the cybersecurity world right now. In fact, this exploit, you really got to make sure you're on top of everything. And this leads me to the biggest part of why I do these videos. See, this is one exploit that can exist. And really, it's up to you now to update your systems, update Minecraft, update whatever that's running with Java, so you are not keen to being exploited. And again, we won't know the true extent of any of this until years down the road, months down the road, when the real scale is truly calculated by the various teams that are working on this. Really, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I make these videos is because you really have to take security into your own hands, okay? So really, what you want to do at the end of all this is, remember, we use Minecraft as a vessel to learn, okay? But you really got to make sure everything that you're using revolving Java is updated, Minecraft is updated, various games are updated, and even the servers you connect to, make sure they're updated as well. Because when it comes to computer security, it's really how much effort you put in. Okay, if you care about your data, you care about your security, you make sure you follow advice like this, like what I'm telling you, and make sure to take care of yourself going forward. Listen, I just showed you this exploit in a fun, goofy way. I launched Notepad. But imagine again if somebody launched a rat tool, if somebody launched ransomware tools, or if somebody PowerShelled into your system and started escalating privileges. That would be a scary scenario. And again, I hope to update you in time as we go through in the next couple months and the next weeks to see how bad the cybersecurity world was actually hit by this, how bad some of the biggest companies were even hit by this, and even the little guys. But yeah, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.